Public Art Commission Board meeting, March 22nd, 2016, 3 p.m., Sanford City Hall, City Commission Room.
I'm Virginia Poe, and I would like to call the meeting of the City of Sanford Public Art Commission to order. I would like for each commission member to state her name for the record, please.
Jennifer Lindquist. Kim House. Catherine Townsend.
Penny Mahaney.
Thank you. Looking at the agenda, the approval of the minutes from the February 23rd meeting leads the roll. I don't have the minutes.
Yes, good afternoon, and for the record, I'm Russ Gibson, Director of Planning and Development Services for the City of Sanford. As I mentioned to a few of you perhaps before the meeting convened, Christine Dalton is unavailable today, so I will attempt to help assist you this afternoon, as well as, of course, in the future. As it relates to the minutes, I regret that the minutes are in a draft mode and haven't been completed, so we will not be able to have your consideration of approving the minutes from the February 23rd meeting today.
Thank you. Can we look forward to them being emailed to us, perhaps?
Yes, we can do so in advance of next month's meeting.
Thank you. So we will look forward to an email of the minutes from the February 23rd regular meeting. Next on the agenda is the discussion of a mural and a summary of the moratorium presented to the City Commission. Can you speak to that?
Nope.
If I may, I will initiate it and allow Mr. Groot to further assist me. But the staff had worked with our city attorney in getting an ordinance drafted to have the City Commission consider the imposition of a temporary moratorium on murals until this board, the Public Art Commission, can continue to work towards adopting a public art ordinance. That draft or ordinance was presented to the City Commission on March 14th for the first reading. The City Commission chose to continue consideration of the moratorium until their April 11th City Commission meeting. So the formal action of the City Commission on March 14th was to continue the first reading of the ordinance until April 11th. And I will also share with you that as a matter of procedure, and Mr. Groot can correct me if I stray from the correct procedure here, is that moratoriums such as this that have implications on development activity within our community requires our Planning and Zoning Commission to make a finding that said consideration of a moratorium is consistent with the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan. And that had not yet been presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission prior to the last City Commission meeting. But we do have a public hearing scheduled for the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider that moratorium at their next meeting on Thursday, April 7th. So you can see the timeline has shifted a bit. So the P&Z will give consideration of the moratorium on April 7th, and then the City Commissions will have the opportunity to reconsider the first reading of the ordinance on April 11th. So that's procedurally the status of the moratorium ordinance at this time. And I'll be happy to answer any questions or allow Mr. Groot.
Is there an allowance or are there guidelines now for murals?
Nope, that's our job.
That is
Okay, so
Yeah, but the moratorium ordinance, I hate to use this
highly technical legal term, sort of defines mural. So we sort of know what we're talking about when they are not allowed during the period of the moratorium. The moratorium is in effect. So it's adequate enough to address any murals that would be installed in violation of the moratorium.
Kevin, let me go first. I'm going to jump down somebody's throat. Okay, guys, you know what? Since I'm the non-voting member, and I'm just going to be the wicked witch today, why in the heck don't these folks have something in front of them? The draft ordinance that was in our commission workbooks, they don't have a copy of it, so they're completely blind. I mean, where is that?
Okay, here's what.
I'll go upstairs and get
That's a
it.
great point.
It is a great point.
No, it is. It is a great point.
You're asking them to discuss something they don't even know what.
You ask about the mural ordinance, I think both meetings that you've had.
Yeah.
Okay, and I drafted one that got 9 months ago, Times First.
I'll go get it right now.
I'll email you copies of what I drafted. Now, it is not,
Can you just tell us how they, quote, sort of defined it?
Lonnie, since I'm a non-voting member, I'm going to go and get the darn thing because I really thought that they would have it.
Well, I have something that's ordinance 2015.
Where did you get that?
I think, maybe I just sent the Oviedo ordinance. I can't
Remember when she was passed, she gave us a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I
I
did.
can search for it.
Okay, so
I
is-
got a copy of the moratorium ordinance.
I'd like to ask, did someone paint a mural that is objectionable? I mean, what is the purpose in this?
Well,
Objectionable would be a value judgment.
correct. I think the primary factor that led staff to initiate having a moratorium ordinance consider was frankly, the proliferation of the murals that have been garnering a lot of feedback to staff that, again, the city doesn't have specific criteria, guidelines for this. And so while the Public Art Commission is in process to try to establish those, we thought this would be a reasonable consideration. Now, the commission didn't necessarily favor entirely, and I don't want to try to interpret the actions of the commission on March 14th, but so they seem to want to work with the community, not generate a negative perception that Sanford is not favorable to art, murals in general. And so, I can appreciate Commissioner Mahaney's frustration that we don't have the moratorium ordinance before you today, but it's not as much that the nature of that instrument alone is to be considered by this board. The interest is to advance the consideration of public art policies, including those for murals, as expeditiously as possible. And so that's the primary charge, of course.
So, this is on our agenda just to let us know that you're
It was
doing
just-
this on our behalf.
It's a summary. We just wanted to
Okay.
keep
So
you-
then I would ask, why are we just going to limit it to a moratorium on murals? Why not a moratorium on sculpture and art and musical performances and,
Again, ultimately, that's a decision of the city commission, but as I observe their reluctance to engage in a moratorium on their murals because of the possible negative connotation that would
Right.
convey, they seemingly want to, again, focus on advancing what the criteria, the policy standards are for public art in general. And so, again, I
well,
can't
we're
speak on behalf of the
trying to
commission.
get there.
Indeed, and it's no fault
obviously
of
it
this
is
board.
I
part
would
of
take
our
it there is a
concern.
mural that somebody doesn't like,
Right.
Again,
or that has
that's-
caused conversation.
There is a muralist who is so quick and fast that it's Jeff Sonkson, the guy who does the
yeah.
Paint the Trail, right? And he is he's a fast artist, and so he's moving so quickly, kind of claiming walls and making work. And
Does he have
whether
owner
you
permission for what
Yes,
he's
he
doing
does.
to these walls?
He has property approval. As far as I know, I mean, I don't know all the details. I can also, though, say that the idea of the moratorium, I did kind of I caught wind of that, and my first reaction was I don't like the idea of it, because first of all, when I heard we're going to have a public art commission, my whole thought was, oh boy, we're going to get to move art into our community and elevate art into our community, and I did not want the first action taken on behalf of this group to be a block.
Sensory.
Yeah, it is the in the same way that it bristled me as an artist, I knew that would be the public perception, and that was, if the whole point is let's put out a moratorium to give the Public Art Commission a chance to do their job, I still would like even the chance to do our job before an action is taken like this.
Well, I have a question of the attorney. How does that relate to property rights?
Well, that's why like when Russ was introducing it, he was talking about why it goes through Planning and Zoning Commission. Because the placement of art, whether it's hardscape like a statue or a mural on a building, can be development. And development relates to property rights. Mural moratorium was saying no development of that nature. So it does. That's why it was being taken through that process.
Would it not make sense for it to come to the Public Art Commission before it goes to Planning and Zoning then, if it's an art-related issue?
Now you're done. I'm not the administrator.
Yeah, and I think that's a
I
fair.
only say that not as a criticism, but I mean, I've been on planning and zoning boards, and I know they're liable to say no before we ever even know that it was a possibility.
The way I understood what Christine's methodology was that she was moving forward with the moratorium ordinance in order that you all could come up with a public art ordinance that would then allow the right kind of mural. That's the way I understood the theory was.
Right.
Perhaps an email to us would have been in order then.
I would have liked the opportunity to weigh in. Because there was something done on our behalf that we didn't know about, and it looks like it was of our doing.
Of our doing.
Yeah.
And not just that, Russ, what generated the spot on Channel 6 News about the moratorium?
I'm
Do you
afraid
know?
I'm not familiar with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that was a shock to actually see that, and it looked like, it looked like it
Did
was
someone
us.
from the city tell them there was a
I
moratorium?
don't know. I have no idea, but it would have been, appropriate to give us a heads up if,
And
to.
do you mind me asking when that?
It was on March 10th.
March 10th. What I was also, if I may, Madam Chair, the follow-up to what Jennifer had stated with regards to the individual that is noted for his murals here and throughout Sanford and throughout our Central Florida community, paint the trails, gentleman, and I failed to recall his name. I think his first name was it Jeff?
Yeah.
And the mayor during the meeting on March 14th, City Commission meeting, indicated that he had communicated directly with this gentleman, respectfully asking him to suspend any further murals in the city of Sanford while the city was working on the Public Art Commission. And the mayor felt confident that this gentleman was going to concur with that request. And so I just wanted to share that with the board as well, that seemingly was the principal impetus for the consideration of the moratorium, and yet the City Commission has also continued the consideration of the moratorium and may not move forward with it. That's ultimately their policy decision on March 12th. So I just want to keep you in the loop, and I do regret that we have not appropriately informed you to this date.
Do our meeting minutes from February the 23rd reflect that we were going to put a moratorium on anything? I don't recall that, frankly, but I know my mind wanders.
Regrettable I was not here, but the minutes that I've reviewed, the draft, did not.
So somebody said this on our behalf, and it was never discussed at our meeting. Am I correct about that?
I wouldn't say it was prepared on this board's behalf. Staff initiated the proposed moratorium and advanced that to the city
After our
commission.
meeting and by the time of their March meeting.
Again, that may have been the correct timeline, but I did not, in my mind, find it was the recommendation or as a product of this
Right.
board.
No, I don't think y'all ever acted on that. I think that, like I said, that's the way I understood Christine's thought, was that the idea was to set the table for y'all by not allowing murals during the interim. Whether that was right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know.
Well, and I'd like to say that in the discussion of murals, I think the board is in agreement that we would like murals. We agree that there need to be some guidelines. But, and I even brought some pictures of a muralist that I came across just to begin to give us a list of people who could and would perhaps be willing to do murals, so that we can all kind of get a feeling of what we agree we would like to see and where. And I also think that part of the ordinance or the guidelines would be that everyone understands the mural is paint, and it can be there for 3 months or 6 months or, 10 days if we say, okay, paint this and then it's gone. I do have just a little bit of a question. If the person we're talking about is making a living painting murals and he has the approval of the property owner, I think we're kind of in a tough spot there. Yes or no?
Well, that brings us back to, if it's in public view, then it's representing the city's view. Right, Lonnie? That you discussed with us? If you can see it from a public right-of-way, it's basically being endorsed by the city.
Now, the issue about regulating murals involves signage.
No, it doesn't.
I'm talking about the legal thing. If you say if it's your, I don't know how we got going on this.
Really?
I like this. But if a jurisdiction says, do your art and whatever you do, you don't regulate, as long as it's art, then you open the door for me as, pick a business, Starbucks. Me as Starbucks is a mural on the wall of my building facing the right-of-way. It's beautiful. I'm colorblind. I don't have very good taste, but I love murals. Okay, so for me as Starbucks to put a mural on my wall that integrates the virtues of coffee and pastry, both of which are very virtues. And that Russ Gibson, as a planner, would say is a
Sign.
It's a sign. That's the issue. Okay, so that's why murals were attempted to be regulated as development. Through this first step as a moratorium by saying you can't have one. That's regulation of development when you said you can't have one. So that's what was going on there. Yeah. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Well, Lonnie, the one thing too, Virginia, and then I want to say something else. The moratorium would also stop them going on homes in residential neighborhoods, correct?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Right now, Russ, they're allowed in residential neighborhoods. And that's a problem because we have a house behind us, and the son is a supposedly artist, and the parents are really proud of him. And he's painted murals all over the house. And all of the neighbors are constantly complaining to me. And I'm saying there's nothing we can do. But he's done this, like, I guess what he thinks is trompe l'oeil, you know? And one side of the house is this watery Greek scene, and the other side of the house is a island scene, and the garage door is a boat scene. It's horrific to have in the middle of your residential neighborhood.
Can I frame that in a different way for you?
Sure.
It's not that murals are permitted in residential areas, it's that you don't regulate paint color.
Except like in the historic district.
If it happens to look like, if your paint color happens to look like a large chicken, or a large gator, or a large Seminole, I said that again, or anything, that's just your paint color. It's not a mural, it's your paint color of your house. And we don't regulate paint color.
Interesting. But if it's in a historic district, then it's a mural.
Well, yes, exactly. So,
And that's the example. We have specific regulations.
Right, for your
regarding
paint colors.
Paint colors, design.
Is that true only because we don't have a mural ordinance?
no, we don't regulate paint color. Most jurisdictions do not regulate paint colors. And the reason for that is, I live Daytona Beach Shores. They regulate paint colors. And when you regulate paint colors, and y'all know this better than I do, because I'm colorblind, okay? I'm gonna say, you cannot have blue. What does that mean? I don't particularly know, except, but I know there's all sorts of shades of blue. So, and some people, I would look at a color, and, well, a normal person who has normal vision could look at a color and say that's blue. And you guys as artists would say, no, it's not, right?
Aqua.
Right.
Because it's something else. And that's why, so when jurisdictions regulate paint colors, what comes along with that is a palette.
Right.
These are allowed and these are prohibited. And
Right.
it's objective, because you can look at those colors, and if you have normal vision, you can
Right.
say that's allowed and this isn't.
And I think Russ and I, or someone from building or planning, and I had a conversation. Another issue we had with not regulating colors is the Pollo Tropical, which is out in my district, and they painted it aqua and yellow. And it's now Pollo Tropical is aqua and yellow right on Reinhardt Road. But Russ, in those two new ordinances, you know, the Schedule K and the Schedule G, I think it was the two new ones, one of them is going to regulate it to no primary colors. I remember seeing that, right?
That is correct. And that was approved on first reading by the City Commission.
So it was approved on first reading, no primary colors. Then would not that somehow carry over into these murals?
Well, again,
Good, I suppose.
right.
Because then all you have to do is not paint the primary colors, and it still could look like a turtle, a duck, a chicken, or whatever, right? So you still have a mural. And,
Okay, so this is what I think we should do, unless there's further discussion. I can see, just by the synopsis on this moratorium, that the moratorium is suggested till the Public Art Commission can put some guidelines to all of what we're doing. And I don't so much have a problem with that.
I kind of do.
What my problem with it is that this is done in our behalf without us knowing. So perhaps we could ask that we be at least advised that this is going on, so that we can have a representative at the next meeting. Yes?
Not going to work that way. A representative can't participate in the commission meeting.
At
For
least
an
we would,
advisory board, anyway.
at least we would know what was being
Right.
said in our behalf.
Well, first and foremost, and we run into the same situation with the Historic Preservation Board, that they frequently feel like we're either making decisions that they should make, or that we're overriding their decisions, et cetera, et cetera. Lonnie, help me out a little bit with this and explain to them why it's hard with this advisory board capacity that the commission still has to function independently. You can help me out a little. I already see the same thing brewing here that we've got with HPB.
Well, we just started. We're not, you've been so long without a public art commission. There hasn't been one at all.
Right.
So nothing regulating murals. We've met twice. And before we're even out of the gate, there is an action that is taken related to public art that, sheds public perception in a negative way on us. And after all of this time of no action taken about murals or, waiting for this board to be developed, could we not have taken an extra 3 months as long as it takes, really, or yes, to have allowed us to weigh in on, did we feel a moratorium on murals was in the best interest of public art in this city?
Can I help you there, hopefully?
Yes.
You're fussing at,
Yeah, you're fussing at the wrong person.
wrong person.
Go ahead, everybody does.
And I don't mean to Christine's not here, I don't mean to die.
No, but
But there should have been coordination.
Yep.
You guys.
Thank you.
Do you agree with that?
Okay, that's what we would like to hear.
For us as a body to discuss as a
You
group.
as a body, you should have been advised, I hate the assume word, but I assume that idea of putting things in sort of freeze while you guys worked was something that you had communicated with Chris, about. So my assumption was wrong, but that's a problem that I'm sure Russ can manage to make sure you're advised of everything from here on out. I'm surprised you weren't. Okay. I'm sure Commissioner Mahaney's surprised you.
yeah, and Jennifer's fussing at me, yet she doesn't understand.
No,
I
no,
already
no.
had the big fuss about what should have happened. Let me tell you what should have happened, okay? And I just had a conversation with Jan, and Russ, Jan wants to talk to you after the meeting, because I jumped on Russ, and I shouldn't have. I apologize, Russ. This was Christine Dalton. You should have been provided an agenda packet, either electronically or I don't think we deliver to the advisory boards. Electronically, it should have included this. And it also should have included the minutes. And why Christine hasn't got those minutes finished after a month, I don't know. But there's a brouhaha brewing because I went up and talked to the city clerk to get these copies done, and she was pretty upset about it. It makes the city look bad, and it's embarrassment to the city. Sometimes she just does things the way she wants to do things, and that's why I got so upset about them not having had any of this. On the other hand, I certainly do see, although this was as much of a surprise to the commission as it was to you all, when we saw it, I certainly do completely understand their desire to place this moratorium short-term, because my concern is that we're going to get more and more of these, and we're going to have a proliferation of murals that maybe aren't appropriate. And let's face it, Jennifer, this city has really struggled to increase our image, to improve our image, and now you honestly, I just really feel I feel like this whole thing was just messed up from the get-go. And I want you to know that at the commission meeting, apparently the commissioners were not happy. I understand that the commission work session, I wasn't there, was kind of got ugly. And the commissioners aren't happy either. But I really think we've got to seriously, and yes, this board can have an input. However, when you say, can we be on this schedule, believe it or not, when we have our work sessions, nobody's really allowed to speak at the work session. Sometimes the mayor lets them, sometimes he doesn't. Lonnie's going to tell you, it's going to frustrate you, because it frustrates everybody, that our planning, if our P&Z disagrees with something we're about to do, Lonnie says to them, do you want to be a board member or a citizen? So it's very complicated. That's really why I'm here. I'm here to share what the 5 of you all want with the commission. I'm here to be your spokesperson. But beyond that, I am still here as a citizen, as a city commissioner who wants to protect what we've already got. And
What we would like is communication. We don't want to come to a meeting and find out that all this was done in our behalf without any knowledge on our part. I mean, obviously we have somewhat varying thoughts on it, but, and I appreciate your explanation. I think we're going to just move on. This is not something that we
Well, I
can
have-
I don't think-
affect. I do think that when I said that it would be nice to know when it was discussed, I didn't mean that we would have a seat at the table. It would just be nice if some representatives from our commission kind of knew what was going on.
I did. I was told, but I personally
and how
weighed
were
in.
you told?
I had lunch with Christine.
See, but that's not right, Russ. This is,
Wait a minute, were you outside the sunshine law by doing that?
No, Christine.
Christine's not a member of the commission. Let me tell you a quick story. Okay, this is deja vu about HPV recently, but on Pamela's site. There's two ways to make sure you get knowledge of what's happening at the city commission. One is to be aggravated by me, because what I would do, at this point in time, what I would do, next time I get the city commission sent to me electronically, say, I'm going to forward it to you guys. And you're going to get, and I forward up stuff all the time.
You do, and we
Thank you.
appreciate
I
it,
hope you
yes.
find it interesting.
We
If you
do.
don't, there's a link button there for, okay. The other thing you can do is go to the city clerk's office and say, I don't want Lonnie forwarding it to me. I want to be on the list. And you can get on the list all the people who get the city commission, like the media, board members, or, other board members. So there's ways you can see every city commission agenda immediately upon it being available, if you want. And had I forwarded that agenda to you, you would have seen it, and I didn't, because I thought everybody was synergistic, apparently not.
So we need to quickly come up with a consensus from our board. So the best way to do that, could we have a roundtable, maybe a few roundtable meetings, so that it isn't so formal, so that we can get to work? We can do that?
We need that.
Because there's no sense in, going to a work session or anything like that if we don't have a consensus.
well, and I'll be certainly the person to relay the board's thoughts. My concern, Virginia, is this, that we don't meet again until the next commission meeting. And I would really like to see if it's possible to get, and maybe not today. Maybe today is just too soon. I know it's a long haul for you to drive up here. But somehow, if we can get a consensus on this one issue before our next commission meeting, so that I can take back to them what you want. Because
When you say this one issue, you mean the moratorium?
the moratorium, this,
In favor or opposed in that kind of way?
me,
I mean, is that what you're asking for? Like, for us to?
right. If we're opposed to it, or if you all are opposed to it at the five, or if the five of you are in favor of it, short term until, she's the chair. Virginia, she's got a question.
I still have my question.
Yes, and your question?
If I'm understanding what has been said, this has been brought up primarily, not only because it needs to be done, but it was brought to the forefront as an issue of one artist. Has that artist been asked not to do this?
Yes, the mayor stated at the March 12th City Commission meeting that he has communicated directly with this gentleman, Jeff, and I fail to
And
recall
he
his last name.
refuses to comply?
No, he has agreed.
Oh, he has agreed to
according
comply.
the mayor.
Okay.
And I have seen other evidence of this individual stating that he has spoken to the mayor, agreed to suspend any murals within the city of Sanford until the city develops design standards or standards for murals.
Were all the murals done by Jeff, or, because it seems to me there was an artist, his first name was Brian, that was on the TV spot. I could be wrong, but,
I am generally aware of most of the murals, particularly those that I think we have pictures that are attached to.
Okay, those are all Jeff's?
I believe those are all the result
Okay.
of the one artist.
Oh, they're on this moratorium thing?
They're not in color, but
Can you tell me, Russ, or Patty, what was the moratorium, what was the length that you were all discussing?
6 months.
6
Until
months?
we have a public art ordinance drafted?
180 days, and extendable or resolution.
And the moratorium, would that affect events?
No, just murals on buildings.
Just on buildings? Okay.
Just murals on
Would it
buildings.
affect 3D at all? 3D art?
On a building, maybe.
If it's on the side of a building,
Then it would, okay, but it's not self-standing.
The moratorium defines mural as any inscription, artwork, figure, wall mural, graffiti, marking or design that is marked, edged, scratched, drawn, or painted on any public property or private property which is observable from the public right of way or from a public space.
Okay.
So that's why I said sort of.
Okay, yeah, that's an interpretation.
I mean, we intended to sort of be broad but vague at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, so what's the thought of the board?
I'd make a motion that we recommend a moratorium for 6 months until we have an ordinance ready.
Do we have a second?
I personally don't think it'll take 6 months, but
I don't either.
I don't either. Hopefully, we can really,
but the thing is, if we say 6 months, we can always end it whenever we have the ordinance ready.
so could you change your
When
motion?
the ordinance is in effect, you can end it.
Exactly.
You can.
Up to, then it would our motion be changed to up to 180 days, but not necessarily?
This ordinance does provide for a potential extension in the event you don't address the need within 6 months. So, but if you want to limit it to only 6 months and only 6 months period, what Mr. Mahaney said was just right, up to 180 days, period.
And then the up to means if we get the ordinance done in 90 days, they can terminate it.
Now, the truth is, though, that we're just giving our opinion. It is already in motion, and regardless of what we decide, right, it's going to be.
Well, I think that now your brothers would be forwarded on to the city commission.
Right.
Jennifer, in part, because this is a new board and because this is a bureaucratic organization, stuff like this is just going to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry if
and it just is. And, we're doing our best to correct it, and I have apologized for it. And believe me, there will be follow-up on this. But the way that I see this is just truly is because my concern as a city commissioner is that these murals that are visible from the street truly define a lot about Sanford to visitors and outsiders when you're driving by. When you're driving by and you see the farmers in the celery farm with the horses and the wagons, it says Old Farming Community. When you see, what's her name, Velvet Satine?
Ashley Satine.
Ashley Satine. And I know everybody had a good time at the drag party. However, I don't consider Ashley Satine necessarily child-friendly. I don't want to be the parent with the 5-year-old that says, Mommy, that lady kind of looks like a man. Or what's the story about drag queens? I think we have to be, I really think we need to sort of be able to protect our image and have...
Well, and it certainly has nothing to do with Sanford's historic
Well,
reference to anything.
Right.
y'all might remember when we talked about the land a little bit. That's why the land has gone to, murals are allowed on public space because they're public art, and the city now gets a mural easement, an art easement, a wall easement, whatever, on properties, and whatever's painted there is the city's expression.
And they've done a beautiful job.
Excuse me? And you-
Beautiful.
That way, the city decides, it's government speech, so the city decides what is going to, you may not like this, but the city decides what art will be displayed.
Right,
You
and
don't
we're,
have somebody saying, well, since Joe did Joe did the Gator football team, mural, I'm going to do a transvestite mural. Because like you said, that may not be what you want displayed publicly.
Well, and once we have ourselves together, we can perhaps give people the permission for a mural for 48 hours, let's say. So the drag queen could be up for the amount
sure.
of time that the performance lasted, and then that's it. It's just paint, you know. And so this kind of does go to giving us a breathing space till we have the time to put our thoughts together. Would you agree or not? I mean, I know you're pretty much opposed to this.
Well, I just, I think, I knew that the problem was one artist. I think it could have been handled with a conversation, and that we didn't need to make this giant statement for our first course of action.
But it won't be your first course of
It
action.
appears to be, though.
Truly.
Public perception
It sure
is
does.
it.
Jennifer, let me give you another example. And put your feelings aside about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman and the whole thing, and just think of yourself as the city of Sanford. What if on one of our big buildings on First Street, what if during the Trayvon Martin crisis, someone had come in and, you know, there were Trayvon memorials in my neighborhood in front of a residence, in front of the retreat at Twin Lakes, a condo complex. There was a Trayvon memorial, and it grew and it grew, and people were coming from all over the country just to see it and have their pictures taken with it. And when we finally needed to have it moved because the residents just literally were having nervous breakdowns and just wanted their life back, it was horrible just going through getting it moved. What if someone put up a mural of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman with a gun, and then everybody that drives downtown sees Trayvon, George Zimmerman, and a gun, and we can never get past that?
You're absolutely right, Patty.
Well, they only get 48 hours, and then we'll paint over it.
With the ordinance, but right now, it would be able to go up permanently. Correct?
You don't have any regulations right now, so yes, you could have an ordinance that allows murals.
Do you want a second the motion?
You could have permanent murals which are on public space, and you could have temporary murals for 48 hours, 1 hour, whatever, that is in private space based upon permitting. But to go to Commissioner Mahaney's point, you won't be regulating content.
Yeah.
24, 48-hour mural, you won't say, we like that, we don't like that. It will be, okay, that's appropriate place, whatever content you want.
For a short-term mural, but we will be regulating content for the permanent
Public space.
public space murals.
All right, so are we in agreement that we'll go along with the short moratorium? Yes
You
or
have a motion.
I,
You have a second?
I do not have a note, a second of the motion by Ms.
Now,
Townsend.
I'd like to see that change so, in fact, it would not affect events. I mean, such as the art festival, such as the Fourth Friday, that you might have a sculpture up for that event that you know, puts the theme into the event for the permitted time that has been approved by the commission for that event.
This one writes that before the fund lets the mural.
Right, but that's kind of objective. I mean, that's interpretation as far as this is.
I would say a sculpture is not a mural. Which we don't make the big sculptures either.
Yeah, no, as defined by, as murals are defined in this ordinance, the moratorium ordinance, a sculpture is not a mural.
So we just, you know, define that as murals, just murals.
I think the motion did say murals.
Okay, all right.
Okay, one last question, not to be a dumb one or to try and throw any wrenches into things, because I know y'all are already mad at me. Chalk art. It's on a sidewalk. Chalk art during the art festival will be allowed on the sidewalks. They have a chalk art contest with a prize. So they'll still be able to do that part of the art festival. Because it's not on a building, it's on a sidewalk.
Well, it's on city right-of-way, it's on a sidewalk. And it is, the applicant has to show us a photo of their image that they're going to place, so we approve it. The art festival approves it, so that it isn't something that would be vulgar.
Permit approved chalk art?
Well, we could make it an exception to this definition, that for our chalk art
Uh-huh.
that is used in, that's only in special events.
Uh-huh.
And
Just
special
a cultural, art and cultural
contests
event.
involving special events permitted by the city. So you accept that as an amendment to your motion. So we can
Yes.
say,
I accept that as an amendment to the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it reluctantly, but up to, that is the key. And I think that we need to get to work quickly.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. So, you can take our thoughts to the county commission, the city commission. Pardon. Apropos to the recent discussion, I would like to call your attention to the photographs that I sent around for everyone to keep. Yes, I sent you to. And this is kind of out of order, except that this kind of goes along with the whole mural discussion. I would like for us to begin a folder of ideas and connections and people that would be involved in public art. This is a young man, Leonard Bowie, who I happened to meet in downtown Sanford, and I think he works in landscape or something, but he commented that he was an artist, and he showed me pictures of murals that he did. He lives in Goldsboro. In our first meeting, I said that I wanted public art to be for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
This is an example of what I meant by that. This fellow's art is obviously untrained, but still very beautiful, I think. He would be probably just thrilled and honored to have his art displayed. It also kind of goes to my comment that murals don't have to last forever. They can be up for 6 or 8 months, and then, somebody else can paint another mural. And they can be timely. They can go with the art festivals that we have, and perhaps with music festivals that we have. And the artist putting the mural up understands that this is for now. Take a bunch of pictures because, in 3 months, somebody else's art will be there. So I'm asking us all to start a folder of ideas and connections. I have this young man's telephone number. I told him that I was going to show you his art, so I had his permission. And we'll kind of move on from there unless someone has a comment about that. I would also encourage the commissioners to let's all start gathering information like this that we can share with each other, that we can give each other ideas and thoughts about where we're going. You all might look at this and go, oh, great. But it works both ways. We all might go, oh, good. He would be someone we would like to talk to. Next on the agenda is the art ordinance. I don't have a draft of our art ordinance.
Again, the intent, from what I understood from Christine, was that she was going to distribute that at today's meeting, and she indicated it was a draft ordinance that Mr. Groot had shared some time ago, and we may once we have that identified, email that to each of you in advance of your next meeting, of course. But unfortunately, we don't have it today. But what Christine indicated, though, is that it was a framework of a public art ordinance that didn't have any, it was basically a lot of blanks that would have this board use as a guideline as far as how to craft the ultimate product that you're being charged with preparing or recommending to the commission. And so that's the, we'll call it the template of an ordinance for you to consider.
Was that a template created for us, Lonnie?
No, it's way before y'all were created.
Would it be possible with that for you to give us maybe 3 samples of other public art ordinances?
I want to start doing that. I hate to step on other people's toes.
And I would suggest that we have a work session, and I think we could put it together in one meeting, frankly.
I think so, too.
An array of material which I've assembled. I've already emailed you, but earlier, it wasn't a 2014 murals ordinance, a mural memorandum to the city commission, which I forgot about. I didn't realize you were talking about it that far back.
Yeah.
And then excuse me, you'd also asked about graffiti, and I drafted a graffiti ordinance. I sent that to you so you could look at it, and the one adopted by OBEDA. But I will send you the other material. I'll send it to you. But Russ wanted me to give you a brief rundown about one matter relating to art ordinances in general, okay? And the city of Mount Dora is struggling with this right now. And one concept, you want me to go ahead and jump in a little bit, give you a little bit of a legal framework?
I think we do. I also wanted to comment that we have the City of Chicago and the City of Tampa's, which I'm hoping everyone kind of looked through. They are different one from the other and kind of give us an idea so we can take things we like from each one. And I would agree with you. I think one work session, we should be able to.
Hammer it out.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that in the beginning, and people acted like, oh no, you can't do that in 6 months. But I think
I agreed with you.
and we have things to do. We need to get the ordinance in place. We need to talk about how we get a budget and go on.
Those ordinances are Christine, because I sent them to Christine. Because
I think she passed them out at the last meeting.
send you the publication.
She has not sent me anything. Thank you.
Chicago publication. It's critical. Piece of public art to the city, history. I'll send that to you.
Okay. All right, so now you're going to give us an overview and your thoughts.
You're exactly right. Chicago and Tampa are very much different. Okay. If you read Tampa, you'll see that it says may contribute.
Right.
You know, like new developers come in and may contribute. It's not mandatory.
We want them to contribute.
Chicago's very much mandatory. Here's the first seed I want to give you about public artwork. It's going to be relatively easy. I agree with you to decide, you know, that there'll be a process whereby you select murals that be appropriate on public spaces and you know, sculptures that should be placed in public spaces and how to encourage art within the city. I think those are going to be relatively easy provisions. Okay. What a lot of jurisdictions go to, though, is requiring new development to contribute some amount of money
Absolutely.
calculated on some basis to provide for public art. Okay. And here's the issue in Florida, and here's why you can sort of put some Chicago's and other jurisdictions outside your mind, except for maybe the framework and the desire and the scope and the process. If you were to get a letter tomorrow from the state of Florida saying, here's your bill for a Florida income tax, what would you think?
For Florida, yeah, wouldn't be happy.
Why not?
Costs us money.
Well, what would your initial thought be?
Move.
We don't have income tax in Florida?
What do they want? What do they want to do with that?
You can't do that because in the Florida Constitution, it prohibits an income tax. So where I'm going with that is whenever there's an imposition, there is a question about by what authority. By
Right.
what authority. In Florida, anything, any amount that government says to a citizen, you have to pay us, unless it relates to a direct service, water, sewer, admission into a splash pad,
Schools,
school, whatever,
roads.
is a tax. Okay? And local governments can only tax through what ad valorem, local business tax,
Right.
and some very other limited exceptions. Unless the Florida legislature says, local government, you can levy this tax, you can't. Okay? There's not an authorization made by the Florida legislature to the local governments of Florida for an art tax. Okay? So it has to be characterized as an impact fee. Okay? And that's the struggle. You can determine how much a 100-unit subdivision is going to impact parks, government facilities like the city hall, roads, water, sewer, and other public facilities like that. There's a many jurisdictions have made that calculation. And governments aren't perfect, they're allowed to be within certain ranges, but it's an objective, scientific calculation that a city commissioner or county commissioner can say, we buy that, we approve that, and that becomes the law. There's no such study that says, Russ, do you know of any? I know the attorneys that were taking over for them outdoor, they're having a fit finding a study that says, well, if you have a 100-unit subdivision, you need a sculpture.
Miami-Dade has that.
Huh?
Doesn't Miami-Dade have that?
Well, but we're going to look at that.
Under new construction
Generally,
with a fee.
Generally,
Orlando has that.
generally, you have to have a study that supports it. Okay? And so one of the goals, one of the bases for anything you do is a study to show what is the impact of the new development, not the folks who are already here. You can't tax them. You can have an impact fee against new development if you show the impact of that development to this public need. And the public need we're talking about is public art. And then you have to prove that that impact, the fee that those people have to pay, that new development has to pay, is roughly proportional to the benefit received. And there's a nexus to the benefit received. Okay? So you have to say, Commissioner Haney, you're a developer, and you brought 100 units of residences in, so you have to fund a sculpture downtown Sanford. If she was a hardcore developer, she'd say, what? How's that benefit me? How's that benefit my residents? Well, you have to prove that. That's exactly what you got to prove. And then you have to prove it's the appropriate amount.
Can we borrow someone else's study?
You can rely upon other studies, but you still have to tailor it to your own jurisdiction. Okay? But that's going to be your first challenge, I think, in terms of the imposition of a requirement on developers. Is developing that intellectual, mathematical, scientific basis to support the imposition of that fee. Because if you can't support the imposition of the fee, it becomes tax. You can't have that. That's going to be the technical problem that you're all going to be dealing with. The other stuff, like I said, I agree with you. The other stuff's pretty easy. You can sit down and crank it out. We could crank out an ordinance in an afternoon. But that part is not an afternoon's work. You agree?
No, and that, I think, will become a sticking point with the majority of the commission. And I can tell you that I personally think that, my feelings aside, that the thoughts of the current commission as it relates to property rights and the encouragement of developers, et cetera, I think we are going to have a tough time imposing an art impact fee. Now, Lonnie, I have a question, though, that goes to this. So, obviously, we just talked about an impact fee, that this developer, say, let's use Torrey, for example.
Yeah, I think the same thing.
So Torrey comes in, and gosh knows how many acres and how many units Torrey's going to put in, and we want Torrey to come in, we think. It looks like it's going to be fantastic for the city. So say we don't want to impose an impact fee for public art, couldn't we write into the development order that these types of, and then have this public art on his property, but put it in the development order that he has to have a piece of public art on his site?
That's a voluntary requirement. That's not a mandatory.
The city couldn't make it.
Comes in, there's a big difference between a plan unit development and plan development, or what we've already set in the framework for the Catalyst site is a development agreement, which has to have a public benefit. It has to have a public benefit, as opposed to the developer who comes in and says, that property is zoned low-density residential. I'm going to develop it as it's zoned. I'm going to plat it as the platting laws require. Give me my approval, Mr. Gibson, and what's your choice? To give him his approval, her approval. And now, that's where I'm entitled to that. Now you come to me and say, I have to pay you $100 a unit for art? That's your point. Now, on the Torrey, it's going to be a development agreement. Okay? We can say, okay, you get this, and we'll participate in that, and you'll do this. And one of the things you'll do is put a statue 35 feet tall on the Veterans Memorial Park that looks like the Statue of Liberty. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. But you can, and you can say, okay, I'll do that. Now you've got it. But that's negotiated. The other is an entitlement, and you can't impose something on an entitlement that you're not authorized to impose.
How about city construction? Can we,
You like
the
well,
1.33.
something called the 3%, I think it was the 3% solution. So every road project should have 3% of the budget devoted to landscaping. So you could make a recommendation that every city project, every city park project, for example, have a 3%, I'm just pulling that out here, a 3% portion of the budget that deals with public art.
Okay, well then we'll remember to do that.
Well,
No,
you don't know either, do you?
no, I'm taking that from the Chicago, which is one more reason for us to look at other people's. Do you think we could get a copy of the City of Orlando's public art? I've suggested that it would behoove us to take a tour of their,
I actually went to their last meeting and saw a copy of their ordinance, which, I mean, it just looked like letters, but it was drafted in 1984, and it was literally old typewriter print. And I asked the chair at one point before the meeting, if you knew now what you didn't know then, what would you do different? And his response was, make your mission statement. That should be your number one priority, is make your mission statement and, feel really good about it, because whenever you, as a body, disagree on something or aren't sure about something, you just go back to the mission statement and say, is it delivering on this?
right, and who is that?
I can't tell you his name. The chair of the Public Art Commission. I'll have to look that up. Sorry.
Okay, did you have?
I would like a copy of that, though, too.
I'll get everything I sent at one, I'll send all.
Right. Okay. Is there a further discussion based on Mr. Groot's comments just now? Are there any citizens present who would like to speak? Do we have staff reports?
Just a couple of information items, if I may.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Before each of you is a flyer announcing the community design workshop that the Tory Group is scheduling for Saturday, April 9th. As you can see, it's a 6-hour window that they are scheduled to be at the Civic Center with the intent of having the community involvement on this most important downtown site. You all are the first recipients of this flyer notice that's going to get promulgated throughout our community, again, with the intent of having public participation. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and invite you to participate in that process. We certainly intend to keep each of you informed as that project unfolds, and certainly appreciate the consideration of what was discussed a short while ago with regards to the opportunity to negotiate a lot of public elements into this, including, of course, public art. It's publicly owned land at this time. And so that's one item. And the other is a reminder, but also a thank you to those board members that attended last week's Ethics and Sunshine Training Law, Virginia and Jennifer. Each of you will be receiving a certificate. City Clerk's office is in the process.
I was there.
I apologize.
Kenny, you didn't go?
No, I couldn't.
You would do yours online?
Dr. Jett was also there, and
Couldn't
so
do it
I'm
online.
pleased to hear about the participation. But Catherine, I did not have your name on the list from the City Clerk's
Was
office.
there on the Wednesday morning.
Did you by chance just question a sign-in on the registry?
Signed in over there.
Okay. I'll make sure the clerk...
Had to write my name in. It was not there, although I had registered.
Okay, that may be a factor. I'll make sure you get a certificate as well. And again, just wanted to thank each of you for following up with your responsibilities and duties. Of course, Kim, there are other opportunities to
Right,
fulfill that
right.
requirement. And otherwise, the only other thing I've got noted, of course, is that the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board I have is for April 26th. Although I did hear the interest of perhaps having work sessions. Again, we'll do what is in the best interest of this board's interest to advance the development of a public art ordinance. So again, if the interest is to have a work session to be able to roll up your sleeves and get further involved in the review of the ordinances, we'll certainly work with you accordingly in your schedules. I also heard during today's meeting, but perhaps in the first meeting, your interest to share and compile a variety of information. I appreciate those that are doing that, including the photographs. Welcome staff being the source of compiling those and distributing those to each of you collectively. And I'm also have an idea of how we can develop a site accessible on the internet so that each of you can review all of these materials, even though they might come to you intermittently via email. At least there'll be one location where you can, an archive, so to speak, or a database where you can go and find all of these materials at one source rather than relying on your own emails and so forth. So we'll get that underway and make sure that it's convenient for each of you to access. And that's all I have.
That'd be great.
Should we figure out a meeting, a workshop now?
No,
A
can we-
date now?
we establish a date for our work session?
That is your prerogative. So.
First, let me thank you for the staff report. We appreciate it. And I also wanted to thank the members who took the ethics training. Since many of us are new to this, the ethics training, I think, is really important and was interesting and informative. My thought was to email Dr. Jett and let him coordinate a workshop meeting since he's really busy. But if you would rather us all look at our calendars now and make a plan, I'm open to that. What's the pleasure of the board?
I think it might help him out if we could give him something that we've already kind of vetted, right?
Maybe pick a couple of dates, if that's possible.
That would be good. Can I look on with your calendar?
Should we try to meet, let's say, around lunchtime and make it a lunchtime meeting? Are people available, or is a late afternoon like this better?
I would say 3 and do it until
This
we're
time
finished.
is good.
Yeah, for me
Okay.
it's later.
How does,
Lunch meeting would be difficult to get out in the middle of the day.
fine. How about Wednesday, the 30th
Of this month.
of this month, next week?
That's a
Yeah.
Wednesday.
That's the day of the patrons party.
No?
The day of what?
Of the what?
Our patrons.
Well, how about a week from today is the 29th?
That's
No,
art
that's
patron
the
party.
day. That's the day of it.
How about the 30th, 3 o'clock?
Okay.
The 30th of this month.
Right.
Of April.
Next week.
What about the 31st on a Thursday?
How about the 31st on a Thursday? That's what I meant. I just said 30.
I know.
That would work for me as well.
I think that would work for me.
31st is good.
And you?
Yes,
And then
ma'am.
are we going to leave that contingent on Dr. Jett's schedule and
No, if Dr. Jett can come, great. If not, we'll just let him send us his ideas.
So,
All right, so please put on your calendar, 3 o'clock, Thursday, March 31st.
Is that good for you, Lonnie?
Do you want me there? You gonna start marking up a ordinance, or are you just gonna talk?
Is there, can we get you
Start marking it up.
requests? Like there's, I would like to have a statement, it's like a speaking point of, that explains easement, and anything that's seen by the right-of-way is government speech, that, and something on graffiti. Is there a common definition for graffiti?
Why don't you look at the ordinance I drafted and see if you agree with
See-
it? Is it the Oviedo ordinance,
That's what you got it from, the Oviedo ordinance?
well, got it from, you can imagine the police chief, planners, and everybody like that together in the same room trying to find graffiti. There was different perspectives, to say the least.
Sure.
And that's what Oviedo came up with, is what they came up with, okay, in terms of defining graffiti.
Well, we can address that, but I think the main thing we need to do is to sit down and take a hard look at the outline and see if we can have copies of the outline for all the commissioners, and we can do that.
No, that's what I was going to suggest. Virginia, you said you wanted to do a roundtable type discussion. So Russ, why don't you see if either the city commission downstairs conference room or the public works conference room are available?
Absolutely.
I don't think we need the railroad room. That's being used a lot these days for bigger groups, but we've got both of those conference rooms where we could actually have more of a round.
Good.
Would you book one of the two?
I will certainly.
And you'll email us and tell us?
Oh, yes, the meeting will need to be noticed and published.
Right.
And
Good.
Russ, maybe we can have some drinks and beverages, cookies or something for everybody. I'll take care of that, actually.
3 p.m.
But your idea then is to actually start brainstorming an ordinance, right?
We're thinking we can finish it.
A whole ordinance? Well,
I will send you a good
I've had 2 different groups tell me that to amend an ordinance is really difficult. It can take up to 2 years to make an amendment to an ordinance. So we just want to be, well, that's what the guy that said it
We
earlier.
have to start somewhere.
Right.
And obviously, with this moratorium staring us in the face, really underscores that we need to get busy.
I agree.
Sanford can do it much quicker if something need to be
An
amended.
an amendment?
Oh, yeah, Lonnie can get that done in a matter of, 30 days?
One thing is put in the back of your mind, anything in the historic district, include the inner, maybe either, it'll have to go, the ordinance will have to go to the HPP, and you may even want to have a joint work session with them. And regulation is, like Russ mentioned earlier, a land development regulation, so the board keeps on the too. And to go to Mr. Mahaney's point about appearing at these other meetings, leaf through your minutes. So whatever you want to be spoken, make sure it's in the minutes. Make sure that that's what can be provided to another body. You read, Commissioner Mahaney, I know you read the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Oh, yeah.
So
And-
that is a key.
And just even a friendly reminder of our training, but even the communications amongst each other cannot be initiated, even as it relates to facilitating the meeting. Staff, I'll follow up with Dr. Jett, as well as each of you, as it relates to affirming the date, time, and location of the meeting.
And Lonnie, I'm glad you're here, because Kim House had a question I thought was a very good one. As a non-voting commission liaison to this member, does my communication with them still have to fall under the Sunshine Law? I don't vote.
So wait till the meeting and then we'll talk about it.
We haven't adjourned yet.
The non-voting member.
Okay, and then I want you to clarify this, coordinating with P&Z and coordinating with HPB. You suggested possibly a joint work session with both?
No, you could do one individual, HPV, you could do one altogether, no, that's never happened, that'd be but you may want, if you're going to address something of significance in the historic district, art-wise, may not be a bad idea. HPV, I don't know if they're not, I don't think they're.
Could you send us the ordinance for the historic district so we can know what to incorporate into ours?
Sure.
We don't have to backtrack then?
The reason I said that is because there was some
Oh, yeah.
changes to the land development regulations and the comp plan to address the catalyst. That ordinance did not pass through the historic preservation board. It was just fast-tracked.
And we're still hearing about it.
Still hearing about it. So that's it. And one of the things I do, and I aggravate people, I know I can send you so many emails, but one thing I try to do is cross-breed information. And so that type of, but that you're still hearing from them, and they still feel like it wasn't necessarily an accident. It was an accident.
Right, but this is the problem,
It was a pure accident. Everybody was just doing stuff, and some of the guys didn't get the HPV. That just happened. It was wrong, but it happened.
There's a lot of animosity on that board.
Do they have a define or a definition of where art is permitted in the historic district? Have they drafted up any type of
You read Schedule
anything?
S, and I'm a proponent of revisiting. The legislature meets once a year, and they amend statutes, okay? I'm a firm proponent of evaluating your codes periodically, because sometimes what you think it says and what it says are two different things. Sometimes what it says may not be what you want at all, or it may not be everything that you want. Schedule S talks about, and I don't have it in front of me, impact of the public view from something like that. And anything that impacts the public view of the district.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Christine was here, she would tell you.
It's like
that-
public realm.
Public realm, thank you. Anything that affects the public realm is subject to HPV regulation. That's a very broad statement. Might need to figure out exactly what it means. But I I issued an opinion, for example. What was it about? That statue?
I think it was those decorative signs,
The signs with the crane on them.
blades.
There was a sculpture too that was, anyway, and I issued an opinion that maybe that the base of the structure, the artwork, was subject to HPV regulations, but the art itself was not. And because my view of Schedule S is that Schedule S doesn't regulate art. That was my opinion on that one. Now, I don't think everybody agrees with that.
Yeah, they're quite concerned about what we're coming up with. So I think
Would want to look at Schedule S.
sitting down with them and trying to get an understanding of each of our different missions and goals is going to be a good idea. I think it'll preempt some problems down the road.
And I love what you just said, preempt problems, because a lot of the problems didn't need to be there,
Right.
right? But if you get together early on, they don't have to.
So the 31st at 3. Got it.
Are there any other,
Oh, it's
are there
finished.
any other items that the members would like to bring up or address?
I have something. As you all know, Kim House has and a couple of other ladies in town have worked very, very, very hard to develop an art festival here in Sanford. And this is our 5th year coming in. And of course, one thing that Kim's always talked about is how much she has admired the DeLand Art Festival's patron program and what a great job, that you all have done and over there in DeLand. And good friend of mine owns a little restaurant out of my district called Chianti's, and he's going to have a little art patron party. And I wanted to invite all of y'all to come. I thought it would be a great time to meet the public, meet some different people, and kind of start talking to them about public art. Because we'll have a lot of people coming, including some of our developers, some of our citizens. I know Chris Kelly will be there. You probably know Chris. And just sort of get a chance to, plus we're going to have food, wine, we're going to have music, we're going to have some different art displays. It's going to be lots of fun. So I have an invitation for each one of you, and I'll get Dr. Jets to him. Oh, you already are invited.
What day is it?
I think it's the 29th.
And it's the 29th.
Oh,
And bring friends, people that are art collectors or art supporters. Bring friends, because it's patron of the arts program.
Trying to generate a lot of enthusiasm and interest in some of our residents that I think will appreciate, but I guess just we haven't quite yet drawn them in. And that was all I think I had.
Thank you. Well, we'll all put March 29th on our calendars.
It is, it's on Seminole Town Center Boulevard.
Oh.
And it's right behind Smoky Bones. So you know where Smoky Bones is.
Yep.
You know that little plaza that
I
has the
can't come
mattress
that
store in
night,
it?
but I know where you're talking about, yeah.
And I've got invitations for you two guys, too. It's time for our city attorney to start coming and supporting some of this stuff. After all, I think we do a great job of supporting our city attorney, don't you?
He doesn't like art. He likes theater, though.
He loves art. He buys
Oh,
Nita
I
bag.
know, I
Lonnie
know.
buys Nita bag.
Do?
Nice. Everyone should have a cat room.
Okay, any other items? I'll encourage everyone to bring your pencil and your ideas to our roundtable meeting on the 31st, next Thursday week, rather.
Do we need to submit materials to staff for a work meeting? Or can we just show up with materials to pass around and look at?
You're welcome to bring them, but if certainly we're here to make copies and have those available to the board members. So if you have any materials you'd like to distribute or share, whether it's next week's work session or in the future, please give them to staff, and we'll copy and distribute or email and or post them in this archive.
Does this give you enough time to publicly notice this? It does.
Not only that, it gets put in the agenda packet.
Correct.
Somebody might look at the agenda packet, so that they want to come talk about that, you generate interest that way too.
Good point.
Okay, I will call the meeting adjourned at 4:28.
I like that word.
Thank you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much, Virginia.